JJ, welcome back to Breakdown. September 10, 2024, week 2. College football is in the book. We're going to talk SEC versus the Big Ten, SEC and Big Ten. Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. So why don't we jump in and talk about what happened last week and what's going to happen next week?
Okay. Well, week 2 is in the book, so let's go back and look at week 2. Who won week 2? SEC or the Big Ten?
It's a good question. Man,
both teams had 4 schools that lost.
Yeah,
and each one had one conference school to lose. So they had 3 losses from non-conference teams.
I'm gonna say SEC won because they had the biggest win.
I would agree,
but
the biggest win being
Texas going into the Big House and dismantling that Sharon Moore-led Michigan team.
We're on the same page.
I think that was. I think that's what tipped it in the books. But I mean, both the SEC and the Big Ten had some bad losses this weekend too. But and they looked pretty bad, like some almost losses. Penn State and Bowling Green almost let Bowling Green beat them.
SEC had 1 bad loss.
Yeah.
I think the Big Ten had a few more bad losses. That's just my take.
Okay.
But doesn't matter. Let's start with the Big Ten, JJ. And
Okay.
the biggest game of the week last week, Michigan hosting Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What went wrong?
Michigan's offense decided not to show up that day. They couldn't block Texas. They couldn't run the ball whatsoever. The receivers couldn't create separation. Davis Warren couldn't.
So JJ, let me not misinterpret what you were telling me. You're telling me that Michigan has a better team than they displayed in the game Saturday. When you said the offense didn't show up.
No.
Okay.
No, they didn't show up because they can't show up. They didn't block them because they couldn't block them.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a long season for Michigan. I think that's going to be a common theme when they play the better teams. I think their schedule is soft enough that they can still win 7-8 games, but the 9 games or 10 would probably get you into the playoffs, 10 and up. That's not going to happen this year, based on the personnel that they have. That's what it looked like.
Okay, I will agree with what you just said.
The defensive line was less than impressive. They have Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. You have all of these guys on the defensive line, and they were not really doing anything to pressure. I mean, I know Texas does have one of the best offensive lines in the country, but I mean, Michigan was supposed to have one of the best offensive lines and the best defensive lines. Like, that's what they've had the past couple of years in a row, and it's just you didn't see either one of those things this past.
And their defensive personnel is pretty much the same as last year. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, they lost a lot of people. They lost a lot of draft picks, but they lost a D lineman that went in the first round. They lost Mike Sanderson, the captain of the secondary. But I mean, I think it wasn't just. I think the defense, after a while, it saw what was happening with the offense. I think once it realized that the offense wasn't going to be able to compete, it kind of it's harder. You just go through the motions more. I don't think you have the same heart and the same fight when even if you get the ball back. I mean, you have to score because your offense won't do it for you.
JJ, before we continue the review of last week's games, I want to talk about something that happened at Michigan today.
Mm-hmm.
4 ex-players, including Denard Robinson and Braylon Edward, sued the NCAA and the Big Ten Network for $50 million, saying that they were denied the opportunity to make money, especially when the Big Ten will show legend games or whatever great games on the Big Ten Network, or when they will post old games on YouTube. These guys saying they're not getting any money from those games. Do they have a case?
Yeah, I mean, I think they absolutely have a case. I think one of the reasons Denard gave was that they were still producing, in 2024, they're still producing things with his likeness. They're still producing jerseys that sell crazy, that have 16 and Robinson on the back. To this day, they're still making them and they're selling them, and people are buying them. So I think it's something that they continue to profit off of. just because they are no longer at that school and university doesn't mean that they shouldn't reap the
Agreed.
benefits of the
Agreed.
contributions.
So we both agree that they do have a case, and we'll see how this holds out. It might take years, else NCAA might decide to make a settlement or something soon. But let's talk about another game, JJ, from last week.
Okay, let's talk about it.
One dear to me in the Big Ten. Michigan State at Maryland. Surprise the prizes for me. I was really happily surprised by what happened. Michigan State winning that game.
Yeah, I had Maryland covering the 8 points, and boy, was I wrong.
Hey, I was too. What was the difference between Michigan's offense last week and the first week?
Michigan State's offense,
I'm
I would
sorry,
say,
Michigan State.
Aiden Childs. I mean, he still was a roller coaster. He still has ups and downs, but he did look a little bit more settled.
A lot more settled.
I would say that was there. I would say
The rookie receiver as well. The freshman receiver had some big plays, especially that fourth quarter touchdown pass catch.
yeah, and the pressure was, I think, probably off. They came in as a more than a touchdown underdog. They're on the road. There's not that pressure to perform, and the first game, with the new coach, new quarterback, and the new crowd, like the new freshmen, and all these people. I just feel like the pressure was off. Aiden Childs, I think he has, he might not be the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now, but I think he is the most talented quarterback in the Big Ten right now.
Ton of potential.
Yeah, he has a lot of talent. He throws the ball. I mean, just as a thrower of the football, I think he's very, again, a league above pretty much everybody else in the Big Ten.
Looking at Michigan State's schedule down the road, over and under started the year was 4.5. Will they make it to a bowl this year? Will they win 6 games and get to a bowl?
Whew, that's a good question. They started off 2-0. I mean, next week they have Prairie View, so it should be 3-0. Boston College is a little bit tougher than people would have thought. I mean, if they can win at Boston College, I mean they're ranked 24th in the country right now. They just beat Florida State. I think that would be a pivotal game. I think they would obviously get. I think that would propel them to probably making a bowl. But if not, I mean, I could see it, being bad because then they play Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, and Michigan.
If they win those against Boston College, they're 4-0. And then they got that 4-game stretch that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, and Michigan.
Yeah.
Will they win one of those games? I think they got a shot to win at least one, Iowa and Michigan.
I think they have a shot, but I don't think that they will.
Okay. And then the thing, it eases up a little bit for them after that, with Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers.
I think they have a better shot of being Iowa than Michigan just because Iowa game is at home, Michigan game's on the road.
Okay.
And also Iowa's offense, as bad as Michigan's offense looked, Iowa's offense looked almost worse. It was, we'll get to that later, but.
That's true. Week 1, their offense looked really good.
Yeah, their offense looked great.
That was against Illinois State, though.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, JJ, one last game in the Big Ten that we want to review. Colorado, Nebraska.
Yeah, I was wrong about that one too. I thought Nebraska would cover the 7.5, and they did not come close.
You thought Colorado?
Yeah, I mean Colorado would. Yeah, no, Nebraska absolutely. They did more than cover.
Yeah.
They sent a message. Their defensive line was in the backfield, Colorado's backfield all night, all day.
Agreed.
And Shador Sanders agrees too. He threw.
Pick six.
Well, he did throw a pick 6, but he also agrees too. You see how he threw his offensive lineman under the bus in those interviews?
No, what happened?
They just asked him, what happened out there? Like, why'd you go out, guys perform like that on offense? And then they compared him to Dylan Raiola, and he was like, well, did you see how many times Dylan Raiola got touched?
Okay.
Which, I mean, is really, really short-sighted to say that because those are the people that are supposed to be blocking for you next week.
I understood.
You might want to give them positive motivation.
Okay, JJ. We were both wrong with that. Colorado might be in for another long season similar to last year. Nebraska, over and under was 7.5. I think they will make that 7.5 pretty easily.
Yeah, they have a very soft schedule. I mean, they have automatic loss at Ohio State, and they have another automatic loss at USC. I think, the 2 of their toughest games being on the road, it kind of makes it easier. Because if they were hosting Ohio State, they'd still lose that game, and then you're just wasting a home game at that point. So I think Nebraska has the opportunity to go to an 8.
Well, let's talk about the SEC for a minute, JJ. previewed
Okay.
some games last year. We won't dwell on these games, but I do want to touch on Arkansas going to Stillwell in Oklahoma, losing to Oklahoma State in overtime, double overtime.
Yeah.
Any thoughts at all on that game? Because I'm not gonna. I have no thoughts on it. But do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, Arkansas had almost 700 yards of offense to Oklahoma State's 380 yards of offense. I mean, they almost doubled them up, and I mean, they just kept on. They gave the game away. They fumbled the game away. They threw the game away. They made bad decisions.
Muffed it away.
They muffed it away. The center was, the center was bad at snapping. He snapped it away. I mean, they just shot themselves in the foot repeatedly, and as an Arkansas Razorback fan, that's something that you've seen before, and it's frustrating to see it this year. But you know what? If you're gonna lose a game to a ranked team on the road, that is a better fashion than to just go out there and get pummeled. I mean, they were in control of that game and they gave it away,
Agreed.
which is not a good feeling. But when you've seen some of the ineptitude that they looked last year, and some earlier in the Chad Morris era, I mean, just uncompetitive teams. I mean, that's not them. Their running game looked better, even though with the loss of Rocket Sanders.
Jackson.
Yeah, Jaquindon Jackson, transfer from Utah, came in, and the running game looks better.
Much better to me.
And with the quarterback being able to take off at any time too. The defensive line looks more competitive even after losing Drew Sanders to the NFL
The
draft.
defensive line looked awesome.
Yeah.
They held what's the running back from Oklahoma State? Gordon. They held
Ali
him.
Gordon, yeah.
They held him, I think, it was 59 yards on 17 carries.
Yeah, and a lot of that came late.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, so
They really battled them up.
But JJ, let's talk about another game in the SEC.
Okay.
Auburn losing to California. Peyton Thorne, you heard of that name?
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago. He was
used to start.
lighting it up at MSU when he had Jaden Reed and Jalen Naylor, both guys who scored touchdowns in the NFL this past weekend.
Plus Keon Coleman.
Plus Keon Coleman, plus Kenneth Walker. It's a different reality for him now.
He threw 4 interceptions last week against California.
He looked very bad, and he was under siege against California.
Yeah, and they're talking about starting, or at least getting a freshman a lot more playing time this coming week.
Yeah, it depends. Who they have playing coming up this week?
Auburn is playing New Mexico.
Yeah, that's a team where I feel like if you want to give him some experience, that's a game to do it against. I think, Cal had a better defensive line than I was expecting, or Auburn's offensive line is just horrible. But I think, Peyton Thorne, he was kind of like the lamb to the slaughter for that. And New Mexico is just the right team to.
How hot is the seat that Hugh Freeze is sitting on right now?
Pretty hot. I mean, he came in because he had success against Nick Saban.
Yeah.
That's why he was hired in, and Nick Saban's gone now. So he's going to have success against Kirby Smart, and who else is established in the SEC? Brian Kelly?
I don't know about that. I do know that a lot of Auburn fans are super, super, super upset. But that's enough with the previews, JJ. Let's talk, with the reviews. Let's preview some upcoming games this week. And let's stay with the SEC, okay?
Sticking with the SEC, let's go.
But even though we're sticking with the SEC, we're going to intermingle it with the Big Ten because Wisconsin is a 15.5-point favorite against Alabama at home.
At Wisconsin.
Yes, Wisconsin's home. They're 15.5-point underdog. I said favorite. They are 15.5-point underdog. What's your take on that game?
Well, neither Wisconsin nor Alabama looked good last week, but Alabama might just have a USF problem. I mean, Jalen Milroe got benched last year against USF. That's how bad that game was. And he came in 5th in the Heisman voting is how he ended it that year. So
the first 3 quarters against Florida, South Florida was really bad.
Oh yeah, don't let the final score fool you. Alabama was getting beat off the line. They were looking very bad. I mean, they looked very much at risk of losing that game.
So who you got? Will you give it the points, JJ? The 15.5?
Even though I have Alabama winning the game, I'm going to take Wisconsin to cover the 15.5 points at home. I don't think Alabama's the type of team that can establish that type of will anymore. And I think Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has enough fight to keep it within 2 touchdowns.
Okay, next game, Florida at home against Texas A&M. Let me see, Texas A&M.
4.5 point favorites.
Okay. On the road, they are a 4.5 favorite at Florida.
That's another situation. Well, Billy Napier won't be the coach by the time this time next year. We all know
Florida,
he's that.
Florida will have a new coach next year.
Yeah, Florida will have a new coach, but will they have a new coach? Will they have an interim new coach within the next couple of weeks? You know, tune in for whenever Florida's bye week is, because I know that I believe they have the hardest schedule in the country.
It's the hardest in the SEC, I believe.
And I think, that almost makes it the hardest in the country.
And it's getting tougher each week. I think A&M win by way more than 4.5 points. What's your take on it?
I have A&M covering that too.
Okay.
And I don't think A&M looks that good.
Let's go to Georgia and Kentucky.
All right, well, that's going to be a slaughter. That's going to be a massacre.
It's at Kentucky.
Yeah.
So Georgia is a 24-point favorite. Kentucky looked bad against South Carolina.
Georgia. Kentucky lost by more than 24 points against South Carolina last week. They lost by 25 points against South Carolina at home. So what do you think is going to happen when Georgia comes in? That they're going to only win by 24? Take Georgia and enjoy the free money.
Okay. Well, let's look at another game, JJ. LSU and South Carolina. LSU is a 7-point favorite, and it's at South Carolina.
That tells you all how much Vegas thinks of that win against Kentucky. That South Carolina just did 25 points on the road.
So what does JJ think of this game though?
I think LSU's going to win by more than 7 points.
Okay, I'm not so sure. I think I would pick South Carolina to cover.
South Carolina's defensive line did look amazing, but
one last game in the SEC, JJ.
Okay.
Vanderbilt, 2-0 against Georgia State, and Vanderbilt is a favorite, JJ, to go 3-0. Their over and under to start the year was 2.5, and we're just in week 3 right now.
Yeah, they're gonna win 3 games in the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean, I think they will. I think that they cover. Well, actually, I don't think that they cover the 10.5. I think Georgia State was competitive against Boise State at home. I think Georgia State can keep it close, but I do think Vandy gets the win. And I think that they're 3-0 for the first time in a long time. I mean, they're halfway to bowl eligibility.
That's true.
The first 3 games of the season.
JJ, I hadn't planned on talking about this game, but I want to talk about another game.
Yeah.
Missouri. Missouri, who do they go to Boston? No, Boston College goes to Columbia.
Yeah, and they're 16.5 point favorites. The Missouri Tigers are.
Just for reference, JJ, Missouri has not given up a single point in 2 games this year. 2 shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
Total yards, in 2 games they've gotten over 1,000 yards in those 2 games, and they've given up barely 250 yards.
Okay. Can you name one player that plays on either team that they played?
Missouri, who did they beat? They beat Murray State and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo was a MAC school, man.
Mm-hmm.
Competitive.
But they're not a good MAC school.
Okay.
I mean, they're not Ohio. They're not Bowling Green.
So Missouri's wins are not impressive to you. So let me just.
I mean, look. They did what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to beat down bad teams by a large margin, and that's what they did.
Let me ask you a question. The college ranking came out today. Of the top 7 teams, how many are SEC teams?
I know SEC is 4 of the top 5. Ohio State being the only outlier. They might be. Well, Notre Dame is out now too, because Notre Dame was in it. Michigan's out. Who else would be in? Who else was this close?
Of the top 7 teams, JJ, 6 of them are SEC. 6 teams, 6 of the top 7 in the country are SEC, with Ohio State being the outlier.
Mm-hmm. The most talented roster in the country.
Indeed.
That money can buy.
Indeed. Okay, JJ, let's preview the Big Ten.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten.
We got to preview Michigan.
Mm-hmm. I guess so.
Michigan and Arkansas State at the Big House. Your take on that?
Yeah, Butch Jones back in the state of Michigan
That's
again.
right. I forget about Butch Jones being coaching Arkansas State.
Yeah,
now.
he was lucky that they had that last second touchdown because they let UCA. Central Arkansas was down, I think 14-0, 21-0. Central Arkansas was down by at least 2 touchdowns, and then they came back and were winning with 1 second left on the clock, and Arkansas State, had a last second touchdown. So good for Butch Jones. I don't think that they're gonna have such luck against Michigan in the Big House. I think Michigan's gonna want to exalt some of the demons that Texas gave them last week, and I think
If JJ by chance it's a close game, how much danger will Moore be in? I'm not even saying a loss. I'm just saying if it's a close game, will he be in any danger?
I think he'll be in danger, absolutely, but I think they're not going to make a decision at the end of the season. I think they'll let him be the sacrificial lamb to play out for the rest of the season because I don't think you do anything bringing anybody else in. Now he doesn't have a contract, so you don't lose anything by firing him. But I don't know. I mean, you don't know how he's doing with the recruiting. You don't know what type of.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the right thing to do? Give him a contract or not give him a contract?
I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision.
Okay. I've seen a lot of coaches 1,000 times worse than Sherrone Moore with contracts.
Well, I'm sure that they offered him a contract. I'm just not sure what the terms of that contract is. I don't know what his agent believes. I'm not sure what he believes.
I got you.
But he might be betting on himself. He might, be denying a contract that other coaches would have taken.
I got you.
I don't know that.
I got you.
But I do know. Yeah, I mean, he should not struggle with Arkansas State. That would be bad.
Okay, another game, JJ. Michigan State hosting Fairview. Another Texas school coming to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Is the state of Texas going to learn to like the state of Michigan?
I don't know. Prairie View, I would assume would be a massive underdog. I think Michigan State should, be able to practice some sets that they want to try out. I mean, I think that they should be able to get through that pretty easily.
I agree.
It should be a stat padding game.
You know what? I saw Michigan State was a 40.5-point favorite in this game. It's the most they've been a favorite in since 2014, I believe, and I forgot what. Eastern Michigan. But anyway, they're a 40.5-point favorite.
And that was a D'Antonio team.
Okay. JJ, let's preview another one. Purdue, Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Did they eat the rat poison, JJ?
I don't know, but it's not looking good. Marcus Freeman consistently has some major letdowns to teams that they were favored to beat. I know that's not looking good, and
losing to Northern Illinois last week.
Yeah, that is pretty bad.
I think they ate the rat poison.
They might have.
They started reading the hype.
But they should have been preparing. I mean, obviously the coaches didn't properly prepare them either.
Okay.
I don't think it's just one. I don't think it's just one thing.
Well, Purdue had a week off last week.
They did have a bye week, and they're 10.5-point underdogs at home.
Okay. You giving them? You taking them?
I'm taking Purdue to cover. I'm taking Notre Dame to win the game.
2 Indiana schools. I would have to take Notre Dame to cover.
Okay.
I would have to see them making a huge comeback, redeeming themselves.
Well, they ain't gonna do that against Purdue. They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to do that against USC or something like that.
We'll see. Well, okay, JJ. Another one, and we touched on it. Didn't we already touch on? Yeah, we touched on Wisconsin and Alabama.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So let's move on to Oregon and Oregon State. A game used to be a conference game. Used to be a season-ending rivalry showdown. Oregon has not looked good in their 2 wins, JJ.
No, they did not. Boise State looked like they were the better team for much of that game.
So, who you have? Oregon State, Oregon.
In that game, I have Oregon covering and winning the game because if they're going to start to look like the
Covering
team,
how many points?
They're 16.5-point favorites on the road at Oregon State.
Yeah.
I would have Oregon covering because if they're going to start to look like the team that they're supposed to be, they'd have to happen now. I think if it's a close game or they or somehow lose, I think that would be very indicative of how the rest of the season's going to go. But unlike Michigan, they haven't had to challenge themselves against a team of that caliber like Texas, but they also haven't sustained a loss. So,
JJ, I understand. After 2 games, I don't think Oregon is the team I thought they were.
yeah, I don't think so either. I think Dylan Gabriel, doesn't step so seamlessly into that role.
They missing their quarterback.
They are missing their quarterback.
Yeah.
I think they're missing some playmakers as well.
Well, JJ, I think we covered last week's review relatively good enough and previewed this week's game. Now we got to do is wait and watch them play them. Can we do that?
Gotta wait. No choice but to wait.
Okay, JJ. I think we're done.
All right.
WFPS.
Who day?